Hello and welcome to a video on IELTS exam day tips. Now I know most of you would have been well prepared with the exam and you're ready to conquer the test. Well, here are certain takeaways that will definitely help you on your day of exam. Do not forget the tips that I share today. I'm sure it will take you places. So let's get started. I'm going to discuss things you must know while attending the IELTS exam. What are they? Well, on the day of the test, there are a lot of things that you have to be careful of. Let's find out what they are. The first, of course, is carrying your ID. Remember, in India, if you've booked an exam in India and you're sitting one in India as well, the only accepted ID is your passport. So you need to ensure that you carry your original passport with you on the day of the test. There have been instances where students have forgotten their original passport or they go to the hall with a copy which is not accepted. So do not make that mistake and ensure you keep your passport with you for the test. Next is what you should carry with you other than the passport. Well, I would say nothing much because black ballpoint pens are provided in your exam center. So you will be given a pen, something similar to this, and because you're going to use the pen for your writing, you need not worry about an eraser or a sharpener. Now these pens are provided in the hall for you, and once you're done with the test, they'll collect the pens back. So don't worry about carrying anything like this with you for the test. Next is, because you're carrying a pen and not a pencil anymore, remember, if you need to make corrections, for instance, have a look at the sample that you can see on screen right now. This is a sample answer for task 1 of writing. Now imagine you've written this with a pen and you want to make a correction. How do you do that? Well, if it was pencil, it was much easier. You could just erase it. But now, because it's a pen, what you can do is, look at the sentence here. So it says, women were studying part-time more than men. So if I want to make a correction here and I want to add a word before women, all I need to do is mark here and say more number of, and then women were studying. Or I can cross out a word and write the right word on the top. So this is how you can make corrections on your answer sheet. Next, if you're somebody who'd like to sip water throughout the test, well, you can carry a completely clear water bottle with you. Remember, no stickers or labels are allowed on the bottle. So carry a clear bottle as you can see on screen. Water is also provided in the exam center. So if at all you feel thirsty and you want to take a sip, you just need to let your invigilator know about the requirement. Next, remember, a watch is not allowed in the exam hall. So yes, if a watch is not allowed, what is next? Well, I'll tell you that in a while. The other aspects or things that are not allowed into an exam hall are your keys, wallets, or anything else that you carry. No accessory is allowed into the exam hall. So you might be provided a designated locker or a room to keep all these items. If not, it's better to keep them at home. So if there are things that are not very necessary, I would recommend that you leave them at home. It's very, very important to manage your stress during the test. It's easy to freak out, and because you have the excitement, some of you might feel really even tired while writing the test. But remember, controlling your nerves is of utmost importance. So what can be done to manage stress? Don't worry, here are certain things that will help you manage stress. First, ensure that on the day before you have a good night's sleep. A lot of candidates are tensed out and they prepare continuously through the night for the next day. Now that is not advisable at all. If you have a good night's sleep, you're letting your brain refresh and you wake up fresh and you have more energy to attend the test. Make sure you also eat well on the day before as well as have a good breakfast on the day of the test. Now, it is also advisable to immerse yourself in English speaking environment. why don't you watch an English movie the day before? Or even on the morning of the test day, you can watch an English news broadcast. That will definitely help you in your exam. So these are some methods that you can use to manage your stress. And of course, when you're in the hall, you can use any of your deep breathing techniques. Some of my students prefer to hum a song to calm their nerves. So whatever you find soothing, go to that and make sure you use it to reduce and manage your stress in the exam hall. Next thing that you need to remember is there aren't any breaks allowed in between. So if you continuously sip water throughout the exam, remember, if you need a toilet break, you have to take it at your own risk. But there are also certain things. For instance, the first 5 to 10 minutes of instructions being given by the invigilator before each test. During that 10 minutes, you're not allowed a break. You're not allowed a break at the end of a section. So you can afford to take a break only during an exam section, which means you're doing your reading and in between the 1 hour, you have to take a break. Now that is a high risk category. So something that I would never advise you. So train yourself in such a way that you can bear with the urgency of using the toilet for around 3 hours, because that's how long the exam would last. Now, what is the order of the test? Well, if you have opted for the IDP computer delivered test, the order is listening, reading and writing. If you have opted for the IDP test on paper, the order of the test is slightly different. You begin first with the writing module, moving on to the reading, followed by the listening. Now the speaking test, especially for the paper-based test, happens around 5 to 6 days before the main test date or 5 to 6 days after the test date. But if it's an IDP computer delivered test, your speaking test mostly happens on the same day and it's done through a video conferencing system. Now, how do you manage your time? Well, I already informed you that watches are not allowed in the exam hall. So what should I be doing? Well, you will have something, a sort of a digital display in your hall, which will help you track time. Now, when using a digital display, you'll also have assistance from the invigilators who will be telling out the time, the number of minutes remaining and so on. So, make sure you plan your time accordingly. Now remember, there's something called as transfer time. Now, in your listening, you have, if it's a paper-based test, you have around 10 minutes to transfer your answers onto the answer sheet. But you don't have any extra transfer time for your reading test. So remember, if you're attending the IELTS on paper, for listening, you get 10 minutes extra, but for reading, you need to ensure that you've written down all your answers onto the answer sheet within that 1 hour itself. Now, for writing, of course, to manage time, make sure you have a plan of which task to begin with. Should you be beginning with task 1 of writing, or should you begin with task 2? Irrespective of which task you begin with, ensure that you strictly adhere to the time limit given. That is 20 minutes for task 1 and 40 minutes for task 2. Alright, so these were some of the top tips that will help you on the day of the test. Remember to go through these once again and be well prepared for the test. Good luck with your IELTS exam. Thank you.
MedCity International Academy. Trusted hands forever.